To what extent does the lack of communication in our society harm coach-athlete relationships? Coach-player relationships held a crucial role in the future development of players. Dr. Peter Scales is a developmental psychologist and internationally recognized one of the foremost authorities on the positive development of children, states in his piece, The Crucial Coaching Relationship, that development relationships are a close connection through which young people develop character skills to discover who they are, gain the skills to shape their own lives, and learn how to interact with and contribute to others. All of this prepares them for success in school, work, and life. Coach-player relationships have an enormous impact on society. Frank L. Small, a professor at the University of Michigan who specializes in researching coach behaviors in youth sports and all the psychological effects of competition on youth, states that there are 4 million youth playing sports each year. My first perspective is that there's a communication barrier between players and coaches through diversity and having different backgrounds. According to Rebecca Leonard, who's Associate Professor in Media of Communication at NC State University, states that black and white hold a variety of stereotypes for each other, often negative. The pre-existing stereotypes that most often have a negative connotation create a barrier between players and coaches. Malcolm Gladwell, who has 5 bestseller books, in his book The Outlier, states, one child the route follows just misses qualifying for the gifted program. Her mother petitions for her to be retested privately and petitions the school and gets her admitted. Poor parents, by contrast, are intimidated by authority. Coaches are figures of authority for players, and depending on the athlete's social status, they may or may not have the crucial communication skills to complete a beneficial coach-player relationship. People from different backgrounds see the world differently, and Rush Founder shows this in his piece, Vanishing Voices. And he is a freelance writer for many corporations such as National Geographic, and has taught science and writing at many universities, and he states, in the interpretation of color is similarly varied from language to language. For example, green is a lucky color in America, while red is seen as a lucky color in China. According to the Pew Research Center study on the percentage of American adults who own different technological devices, it shows that 95% of adults ages 18 to 34 own a cell phone, while only 68% of adults in America ages 66 to 74 own a cell phone. Generations have different education, beliefs, and values, and this prevents a barrier between them because it's harder for older generations to accept the new ideas and the new problem solutions of the newer ones. And this prevents a problem in sports because coaches are most always from a different generation than their players. Herschel Thornburg, who conducted a study, has a doctorate in education psychology and found that 60% of students surveyed agree that most adults my age don't really listen to people my age. This shows that age is a barrier in communication, and a lack of relationship between coaches and players can harm their relationship. Harry Mesmer, who has a degree in philosophy and history, states that found that it hurts to be told by a new generation that we are mistaken, indeed that we are part of the problem and not the solution. This evidence explains the issue of racism specifically, and how it is hard for older generations to accept the ideas of the newer one. And accepting the new ideas from players, coaches might find this as a barrier. My third perspective is opposing genders, and how opposite gender coaches and players create a major barrier between them because it's hard for different generations to understand the other. For example, a coach who is hard on their players and uses yelling as a form of communication might push boys to be better and to try harder. While if they tried the same coaching style with girls, it would just shut them down and make them want to quit. Richard Rustoff shows this in his piece, he's a graduate of Georgetown University School of Medicine and has written 20 books on the human brain. States in his piece that the mental difference between boys and girls, when it comes to psychological measurements of the brain functioning between the sexes, unmistakable differences emerge. The mental difference between boys and girls means that they approach problems differently, and which in turn creates a barrier between different gendered coaches and players. Hefner, who wrote the Olympic Committee handbook, states in it that women held 26.7% of decision-making and voting positions in the Olympic Committee. If there were more women in positions of power, such as coaching, there would be less of a barrier between coaches and players because they would be able to connect with each other more easily. My first solution to diminish the communication barriers between players and coaches is team building. According to Mike Woodcock, who is a professor at the School of Management and a chairman of the Challenge Group, found that teamwork is increasingly being seen as an important subject, and team building is now one of the most popular and effective ways of improving the health of the organization. Team building allows for improved communication between players and coaches and allows for a stronger bond between them. According to the Aspen Institute, who created Project Love to keep kids from lower-income families playing sports, found that 26% of all kids who are in a household with an income under $25,000 play sports regularly, while 41% of kids in a household with an income of $75,000 to $99,999 play sports on a consistent basis. Lower-income teams lack the financial support of families to perform these team-building activities properly. My limitations of the solution are a lack of funds and a lack of accountability for team building. My second solution would be to require coaches to perform training to diminish the social barriers between them and their players. The Ohio Department of Health, which is a government organization which regulates all health activities including sports, states that the Ohio Department of Health, as well as other organizations, have created guidelines such as required video, handout, and signature form for athletes who are performing athletic activity to parents and coaches about the nature and warning signs of sudden cardiac arrest. In Ohio, they have Lindsay's Law, which shows that this type of training is implementable and is proven to work. The Ohio Safe Sport Handbook, written by the United States Olympic Committee, supports training and coaches dealing with athletes. Education is key to a prevention strategy, is what it states in their handbook, and this proves that education for coaches and players is supported by a major sports organization. My limitations for this solution is a lack of funds and a lack of regulation for all training of coaches and players. My implementation plan would be to implement a type of training similar to Lindsay's Law and require a complete handout from coaches and students in a signature form. The Ohio Department of Health released an information handout for coaches. Lindsay's Law requires both the youth and athlete and parent or guardian to acknowledge receipt of information about sudden cardiac arrest by signing a form. My evaluation statement would be that I believe that training coaches would be a more effective way to diminish the communication and barriers between coaches and players in team building. I believe that we need to diminish the barriers of different gender coaching players, opposing generations, and have coaches and players with different backgrounds to help the players succeed in school, work, and life.
How did you select the strategies you used to gather information or conduct research? Were they effective?
The strategies I used to conduct my research and find information were to use a database because of the credibility of the sources, and I also used personal experience because I play sport in Ohio, and I've been through Lindsay's Law to play sports there, and that was a good starting point to find all my information.
What additional questions emerged from your research? Why are these questions important?
Some additional questions I have would be how we would personalize the training for different areas, because people from different areas see the world differently and they have different environments, and they're going to react to the training differently, so we have to personalize it so it would be effective, or else it's just not going to work.